Oh, good morning, Max. How are you feeling today?
Pretty good. A Friday at home. I can't really complain about that. How about you?
Yeah, like I was kind of telling you before, I thought I was gonna wake up really early to pre-order an iPhone, and I'm glad I like smartened up and decided just to sleep instead and feel better for today and save some money, hopefully for other stuff and not something stupid later on. But
It's crazy what they
we'll see.
cost these days.
Yeah, starting at 1,000 now. It's not like the high end price. That's like where they are. So. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know what we're gonna call this or whatever, but I know we've kind of talked about talking more often, just kind of from like manager to manager, and the fact that we work kind of in the same market and stuff, but that we don't hate each other and we're not like at each other's throats all the time, or at least we don't come
Yeah.
across that way.
No,
Um,
I don't hate you. I don't know who said that, but I don't hate you at
I'm just
all.
I'm just speaking to how I feel, so you
Oh,
can say
okay,
whatever you
okay.
want.
I see how this works.
Yeah, I think the big thing that's been going on lately is that Toronto International Film Festival's been happening, and that means Honnold and Jimmy Chin have been in town. And I saw they stopped at your gym and they stopped at Joe Rockhead's. So what was that like for your community? Did you guys kind of do anything to include him, or was he just stopping by as a climber?
We we're lucky. We have some really good connections at Basecamp, and one of them happens to be a good connection to Vice News.
Cool.
Our owner at Basecamp has done a couple other different projects that have involved Vice News doing interviews with him, and so we got contacted on Saturday night saying that they were looking for a location to film an interview with Jimmy and Alex about the release of Free Solo. And it was really nice because we didn't have much going on at the gym this week, with it being the second or first week of school or whatever it is. So it was quiet, and it meant that they could come in and do an interview in our new bouldering area. So that was also a nice thing to do. And Jimmy had been into the gym before when he was in town for Maru about 2 years ago.
Right.
So it's kind of an interesting experience having him back in the gym with it being completely renovated. He walked upstairs. He's like, I think I've been here before.
Yeah.
But yeah, Alex actually stopped in with Sandy, his girlfriend, on Saturday night for a climb, and we just happened to do our boulder reset on Monday. So when they came back in on Tuesday morning, they had a brand new set to climb,
Perfect. That's
which
so
was
good.
fun because when I saw them when they came in through the doors, I mentioned that fact, and Alex said to Sandy that he was pretty sure that he could have climbed every boulder from memory without even seeing the holds again.
Okay.
So it's just a testament to obviously the mental processes that go along with climbing. Incredible. So it's
Yeah.
fun. They came in about an hour early and had a private session climbing on the boulder, Sandy and Alex, and had a great time. Really neat to see how supportive a relationship they seem to have.
Cool.
Alex even interrupted an interview segment to cheer Sandy on and give her beta on improv, which was really neat to see.
That's
It
awesome.
humanized the whole thing.
Yeah.
And also she did as well. I think it's a heck of an experience being along for the ride.
Yeah.
And by the sounds of it, it's quite a ride. I mean, these guys are rock climbers, and Alex has seen a crazy trajectory over the last while with everything he's done. And I think getting caught in the whirlwind of that is pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
So.
Did you get a chance to see the film? Like I haven't seen it. I don't know if
No,
you've.
not
Yeah.
yet. I mean, it's sold out. I think it sold out pretty
Yeah.
quickly, and I'm not normally a theater person as it is, but I definitely want to see it, and I've heard amazing things. The trailer certainly makes it look pretty incredible,
Yeah.
and from what I hear, it wasn't too sort of over sensationalized, which is, I think, maybe something that as climbers we'd worry about
Yeah.
it being glorified or over dramatized over what it actually is. But I've heard really good things. So
Yeah. I think the relationship aspect is the thing I'm most intrigued about because between you said Sandy, right? I don't know her
yeah,
name. Sandy.
Cassandra, Sandy,
Okay,
yeah.
sure. So between Honnold's girlfriend and him, and then also just between like Jimmy and Honnold, like that's a.
They're funny people. They
I'm
were
sure,
really funny
just
guys, both of them.
the strain that's got to put on your relationship. That kind of like level of danger is pretty nuts. Honnold ended up coming to Joe Rockhead's after he visited you guys. I guess it was on Monday, and it's myself and Trey, the manager there. We've been talking about like things we want to do at Joe Rockhead, some changes we want to make, and it actually worked out super well. As Trey messaged us like, "Yo, Honnold's in the gym," and kind of one thing that we've been talking about for the last month and like trying to like put it out into the water and see how people deal with it is the idea of adding more routes. Like for people that don't know, Joe Rockheads is one of the last Canadian gyms to do a single route on a rope. I know Gravity in Hamilton still does it. So there's a lot of nice things about it. Like you can put any color hold, blah, 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 whatever. Like I don't really care. But the problem is like Joe Rockheads doesn't have a lot of rope space, right? So
yeah, I think there's like 35 or 40 anchors or something.
Yeah,
right?
there's 27 top rope anchors in the main room, and then there's the kind of the auxiliary room which doesn't get used that much. So we've been talking about like trying to convince everybody to switch to monochromatic setting, 2 routes on every rope where we can manage it. So then Honnold coming in, and he was basically kind of mentioning to the staff like, I wish there were more climbs, and so Trey managed to like get him on video saying, you know, hey, do more stuff, add more climbs, and whether or not that's what like pushed everybody over the edge to be like, yeah, that's a good idea, or if everybody was already there and it was just kind of an extra boost. But so yeah, it sounds like that's something we're actually going to try and do is actually add more climbing to.
That's exciting to hear. I mean, I think a lot of the social media you guys do is very tongue in cheek, and I think you do an amazing job with on both sides of things, and particularly since the takeover. I mean, you're seeing that with the Joe's media, but I think a lot of people got a good laugh out of that, and it's. It takes a business to get to a certain point where they can make fun of themselves, but Definitely. It sounds like it sounds like it had the right effect. And the funny thing being is, recently I'm not going to go back to tape routes. We're not going to go to one. But we've talked about. I think there's always that discussion about what's that crux, like how many routes is too many. And how many routes is not enough. And one of those reasons being, you can only have one person on one anchor at a time.
Yep.
So the more holds you have up there, the less, to me, use they have in some sense. Like, I mean, if you only have 58, we have 58 top rope or 58 anchors.
Yeah.
I don't want only 58 climbs in the gym, but when you start tripling up, things get a little hectic, and I've always been a fan of that alley up style, where it's less is more in a sense. Like they do a beautiful job setting, and I've been paying particular attention to their route setting recently, but I don't know if they do 1 or 2. It tends to look like just a minimal amount of routes, and they obviously have an amazing hold selection and can play with it that way. But we ask ourselves, what is the value of setting an anchor over and over again, the cost associated with that? Because I'm always having to keep an eye on setting costs. And if I'm going to spend time having somebody put a second route over an anchor where only one person can climb it at one time, what is the associated value, and does that diminish at a certain point?
Okay, well, one thing I want to bring up is like you are on a Waltopia system. So what's the distance between your anchors? Like it's relatively small.
Oh, it's small. It's tiny. Yeah, we've got. Yeah.
So for you guys, it's not even like you can only have one climber per anchor. It's like you can only have one climber for every 2 anchors, right? Because you almost need that buffer of somebody like keeping the rope beside open. And I think LA up is basically the same thing.
But you guys have wide anchors. They're like 8-foot lanes sometimes, right?
Yeah, we have like lots of space. So it's aside from the parts where the steep walls kind of interact with a flat wall, where you can just get some weird interactions, especially if a fall comes up. We have lots of space. But yeah, so because I've been thinking about the same thing, although from the opposite end where I'm like, we need more, and it sounds like you might be coming from, do we need as many? Like 27 top ropes, basically. That's, if you break that down over a grade separation, that could be like not many climbs for somebody. So imagine you come in for a top rope belay lesson, right? And you do maybe 2 or 3 climbs in that lesson, and then you go out for, let's say you last for another hour with your friend. you're going to finish every climb in the gym that you can conceive of doing in that time. What makes you think you would want to come back for a second visit, right? Like, why would you come back, especially if you're not conscious of the fact that the climbs turn over? And then extend that to if you're a member. Like, why would you, like, a membership is only valuable if you're coming to a gym, like, generally 2 or more times a week, right? And so if you can't keep yourself psyched for the next visit, like if you don't have that, like enough climbs for that, then that's a problem. I don't think it makes a membership worth it if there aren't enough climbs to get you in the door the second time and keep you active and interested.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to go to one route and anchor. We have some funny places where we have bottlenecks in the design of the gym.
Oh, sure.
So we have a 20-foot wide base that finishes at 3 anchors at the top, and it really does make a difference in what you can set. But I like a climbing session where you get on an anchor, you tie in once, and you can do 2 routes, right? You do depending on what it is, you do the warm up, and then you get on the harder one or whatever it is, and we do need that at 58 anchors. Obviously, it's not tons more than you have. It's double, but it's not tons. And so we do want to keep that. I think we average about 105, 110-ish routes, depending on what we're doing, because we've got some auto blaze and some anchors that we don't currently use for specific reasons. It was funny to see that video. I thought it was really... He is a guy that has a really great sense of humor, and it worked perfectly for what you were doing there, I think. I mean, everybody was talking about it on Monday, I'll be honest. Sure. So it was such a neat thing to see, and it's fun that you get those moments where you can have a different opinion come in and provide that perspective. And as you said, that might have been the little thing that pushed over that brink, and that's great. For us, one of the neat things is we just reset the boulders. So we got to watch 2 really great climbers basically forerun the boulders, and neat as setters to be able to have that experience, to see that as well too. Mm-hmm. It's not that often you get professional climbers coming through the gym. There's a fair share of bystanders and gawkers.
Gotta sell tickets,
one of the funny things that happened is, so we have this amazing marquee outside of the gym. Couldn't get rid of it, wouldn't want to anyway. It's phenomenal advertising.
Because you guys used to be a theater, just for
that's right, yeah. So we got that old marquee out front, and for specific reasons, we had to keep it. It had to keep it intact with what it was. So we use it frequently as an advertising tool, and we maybe don't take advantage of it as much as we should. And one of our staff members decided that they would put a personal message to Jimmy and Alex on the mezzanine, congratulating them on TIFF, and that got posted on our social media, and Alex commented on it. A staff member invited him, and 15 minutes later he showed up at the gym.
That's amazing.
So that was really fun to see. So we got some cute photos of Jimmy and Alex outside the gym in front of the marquee.
That's sick.
Great opportunity there.
Yeah, man, that's really cool. Yeah, I think it's I think it might end up being one of those things where, like, in like the folklore of Joe Rockheads, people be like, yeah, and then one day Alex Honnold came in and suddenly there were 2 routes on a rope, and like the rest of us will just have to quietly be like, okay, sure, that's the story now. But it definitely was a huge help. Like, it changed the discussion, and kind of at Joe's, it's so easy, especially for me as like an outsider, to come in and be like, oh, everybody's stubborn and doesn't want to change anything. And I think that, like, I think the members think that of the route setters, and the route setters think that of the members, and everybody thinks the other side doesn't want to do anything, but everybody's totally open to making a change. Yeah. And so it just took somebody to kind of say it, and everybody's pretty much like, yeah, we'll give this a shot. It won't kill us.
It's good to hear, because one of the things that always in my mind about Joe's and the setup there is the bouldering setup and the fill. I mean, that's a conversation you and I have had before.
Yeah.
It was a year ago.
Yeah.
Just over a year ago that I made the decision to put the spray route on our auto belay.
Right.
Since then, I have seen a lot of gyms making the effort to have either auto belays like that, or bouldering sections, or just full on routes like that. It gets used all the time. Yeah. It's really cool. I just reset it. It for sure was the longest route, 13 months up in our gym. But amazing impact from a lot of perspectives, but really interesting to see that there's kind of been a bit of a trend towards that. And Joe's sits in this really neat like hotbed of that process, because the front part of Joe's is all fill, with boulder problems spread out between, with the exception of when those circuit problems go up.
Yeah.
And the circuits are obviously not unique to Joe's, but in the GTA, I think unique to the gym.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like that. And when the whole purchase happened of the gym, I think a lot of people were worried what would happen to the fill. And interestingly enough, I've only climbed a few times since that switchover, but at Joe's, I wonder what the culture now thinks of it, now that there is a new culture setting in there that is incredibly fast turnover on problems and routes, and then how the fill still plays a part in the community there. That's, from an outsider perspective, I'm really interested in that. Because our spray route's not going anywhere. People like it. It's a great use of those holds. It's a really, from a perspective of getting new climbers up the wall, when you have a hold every bolt hole, it really can help with the process of getting somebody up. And then the people that want to train or do laps or whatever they want to do, it's an incredible tool. And to me, still a year later, still a good usage of that anchor.
We can talk about the Joe's backfill in a minute, but I want to ask you, so you had your backfill auto belay. My recollection was there weren't a lot of really easy holds on it. It was kind of a mix of edges and pockets and mini jugs and stuff. So it's not like it was just a backfill jug haul. There might have been what do you think the easiest way up that route was? What grade would you give it, the very easiest?
So funny thing is I had somebody say that this time round I did a far better job setting it.
Cool.
And I said, "Oh, really?" Because I put a lot more effort into it last time. Because what I tried to do was I in my head I was like, I'm going to try and set a lot of routes on here.
Okay.
I set a lot of routes so that there would be the jug haul, there would be the pinchy climb, the slopey climb, the crimps. I think maybe the easiest you could have done up there would have been 5.5. There was a central jug haul, but the way that it happened this time around is I had to strip 270 holds or whatever it was, and then put another 270 back up. And to make the process easy, I put different holds back up.
Yeah.
We phased out our Waltopia lime green in favor of doing that spray route.
Cool.
So I had an entire hold color selection of holds to choose from. So this time round, there are more jugs on it. Maybe not as big. I think still your easiest climb is probably about a 5.5, but you get a lot more of the intermediate, so 6, 7s, and 8s there now.
Okay.
There's less hard holds this time. But I think from a training perspective, you don't necessarily need the hard holds. I think a lot of people are doing that for endurance training.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
And at the point that I put that up, we also didn't have a bouldering wall as well, and we had fill on our bouldering wall. So things have changed a bit. We have a full bouldering section now. So people can complement their climbing routines in different ways. But yeah, I actually took a lot less effort. I just put holds in both holes and even still, that took me 3.5 hours to do that, to strip and reset that. Cause it's at 30 or 29 feet. And there is with the exception of the 2 stripped T-nuts in there, there are holds in every bolt hole the whole way up. And then what I did this time, we ordered a silly order of kids climbing holds in multicolors a long time ago that we've never used. So I actually took an effort to put those directly up the middle of that spray route. So it's like a left-right ladder on kids holds.
Cool.
And they're multicolored, but because they're in the midst of this sea of green, it doesn't interfere too much with any colors around it. And it's a good way for us to use those holds. It meant that I had to put less green ones on there. I was struggling a little bit for the jugs, the big ones. And just another way to engage the younger kids that we have coming through the gym.
So who uses that wall? Like, is it a lot of beginners? Is it just like a kind of a cross section of everybody?
It's a cross section for sure. I mean, our auto belays are packed, like, people deep on weekends. And that tends to be, visually, it draws a lot of people because there's more holds on it. So they're going to assume that it's easier to get up. And so it does get used a lot. But one of the other things being is in commercial settings or in gyms, I'm 5'10". We do have a mixture of climbers, but when we start putting holds on the wall, we put them at starting height, and we get 2 and 3 year olds coming into the climbing gym. So all of a sudden now, because I fill every bolt hole all the way down to the ground, we can have those 2 and 3 year olds actually start a climb without having to stand on dad's knee. Right. So that's kind of a nice thing. But then throughout the daytime, we do get a lot of people come in and do their training sessions on it, and they'll stick their stopwatch on and climb for a half hour on one route. And it's cool to see that, because we don't have a tread wall. Currently we're in limbo and our training area is being built, so having that option of endurance climbing for some people is really great.
Cool. And then my last question is, like, you have 5 auto belays, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is taking one of them and making it an entirely backfill auto belay worth it over just having another auto belay that is set again with 3 routes on it, same frequency as the others? Like, are you like locked in that that's the better way?
When I'm only resetting it once a year, the cost perspective is phenomenal.
Okay.
Our turnover on our auto belays is 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, when you're looking at 52 weeks for turnover time, it was like 54 weeks or something. From a cost perspective, it's great. The other thing being, because you can do that, choose your own adventure, pick your own route, it has, I think, a greater longevity than just 2 routes on an anchor. And we used to do 3 per anchor, and we reduced to 2.
Okay.
It was holds selection, the thing that gyms always struggle with. But B, it was busy. It was really busy having that many holds per route. And with auto belays, you always have to be conscientious of tether rubbing. Mm-hmm. And the more holds you have, the more chances are they're going to be rubbing on the line somewhere. The more profile they have, the more they're going to rub. We are always considering getting more auto belays. I don't think it negatively affects the amount of people that we can have come through the gym. And of course, with the complement of bouldering now, that's less of an issue, because day passes are a lot easier to sell for bouldering.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah. How is, for your bouldering, like, it's not a huge wall. Your gym gets a ton of traffic. It's been entirely rope centric for like the first 2.5 years or whatever of its life. And so when you first set, it was like probably not the easiest bouldering wall, but like it started out so basic, right? Like the very easiest climbs were incredibly basic, and it did a really good job of ramping up from there up to like kind of moderate hard stuff. Because the idea was, I guess, that a lot of your members don't boulder very often, and it's a new set of angles and a new kind of like vocabulary of movement and stuff. Has that changed in the last, like, I guess it's only been like 2.5 months, like 2 months really?
We just did set 5.
Okay.
So we're doing every 3 weeks.
And that's a full strip and set?
Full strip and set. It's 1,000 square feet. It's a small area. It's on our mezzanine. Nothing else happens up there. We changed our process a little bit. We were doing it middle of the week. Now we go to a Sunday because we close earlier on a Sunday anyway, so we inconvenience people less. You're absolutely right in identifying that our first set was, and this has been our strategy, is we didn't really have a bouldering community, so you have to be kind in how you introduce people to the sport. And I think from a liabilities perspective, as a manager, the idea of people, we did like 3.5 orientations in 2 weeks or something. So having people experience falling is something that we were definitely concerned about. So we had to go through all the orientations, but it was also introducing people to the world of climbing and also introducing our setters to the world of boulder setting as well. I mean, I have significant boulder setting experience. Two of my setters came from a bouldering gym previously. One of them's never set boulders before, and one of them predominantly has been setting routes for the last 10 years. So it was a process of both us as a team learning how to set boulders, if you will, but also, getting that community to the place where they can start getting more confident in that vocabulary of movement and the translation of bouldering grades to route grades or whatever it is. So by the fifth set now, we've definitely seen a ramping up in the overall level. I don't know if we're ever going to see our baseline actually get that much higher. We fluctuate between 4 and 5 problems in our circuit that are VB V0. We have a pretty big youth program, which is not making a dig, but not a challenge that you deal with at Joe's. So when we have kids as young as 6, and we have a lot of them in our program.
Well, look at you guys making money off kids.
We do have to be very concerned about that, and that was also the discussion we had. On average, 130 kids through our doors every day this summer. Mm-hmm. And then the discussion then became, do we have them bouldering at all? How does that work with our camps and with all that stuff? So our baseline very much has to cater to both the youth, but given our location, we have so many people who are entirely new to climbing and who may not have even made that conscientious decision before coming that they are going to climb.
Yeah.
Because our location is so easy, like you go for your Korean food and you're walking by afterwards, you're like, oh, what is this place? Yeah. I'm going to go in for a post-dinner climb, and all of a sudden they're full, they're not mentally prepared for it, and this is just something they would have maybe never considered before, and it's incredible. We spent a lot of time in those first couple of weeks observing our climbers, myself and my assistant head route setter, who has now been promoted to our head route setter. Right. We spent many, many hours watching people on those climbs, and still, even 5 sets later, 2.5 months later, we don't feel entirely confident reducing the bottom end too much.
Okay.
It fluctuates by a problem per circuit every time we set. We do 6 different colors with a grade overlap in between. That was just the decision that we decided to go with. So it means that in our bottom circuit, we'll probably have 4 VB V0-ish, so 2 VBs, 2 V0s, and then our next circuit up is actually 0, 1, 2. Okay. So we'll probably have 0 from that circuit as well.
Yeah.
It was a strategy, like an overlap strategy that we talked about with Louis Anderson when we'd met him in March about having that great overlap in between. And it's good because it allows us to juggle a climb back and forth in between each circuit and hopefully get the progression between grades that we want. Yeah. We can only set really 24 to 26 problems in that space. So having too many hard ones or too many easy ones is not really what goal is in this space. We definitely have a lot of beginner/intermediate boulderers right now, for sure.
We're kind of dealing with the issue that, you know, at Joe's almost all of the bouldering is really steep, right? There's the traverse wall, which isn't that tall, and it's like not, you know, it's not your ideal bouldering situation, but the rest of it is just like bam. And so backfill on a lot of it makes sense, just in that, you know, it's not going to be beginners on it in the first place, and we do still have a culture of people who have been around for a long time and they want to like train on tiny little crimps, and the recent addition to the setting crews have kind of reinvigorated a bit of that culture, and so that's kind of cool. But from the beginner side, that's something really hard for us because so much of our terrain is steep. And aside from that, there's always been a bit of a culture, you know, in the past that hasn't been necessarily super accommodating to the experience of beginners, if only because we want to cater to people with experience. Not that, you know, we're mad at new climbers or anything like that, but like we just want to set climbs for people that love climbing. and that's something we're starting to be like, yo, we have to change this. But we run into just the wall issue, which is always a huge bummer when you're just dealing with so much overhang.
One of the things that I've always been interested in, because you and I are so deeply involved with all sides of this, is as somebody who is a new climber and coming into the gym, into Joe's, and say roots is what you want to be doing, and you have this circuit that goes up every week, right? It's a new circuit every week.
Two new circuits,
right? And let's be honest, they're advanced and advanced plus.
Yeah.
Okay? And they are taking up significant sections of your only 27 wall anchors. So my question then becomes, as a new climber, when you come into the gym, that's a pretty intimidating thing when part of your walls can't be used. You probably can't get on those problems. Has there been a thought into making a beginner circuit? I mean, you're already using those spaces. Could you not overlap and put something similar there? Because then you don't have to worry about your angles, because all of those problems tend to be going on the slabby sections or the corners or things like that. And to me, that would be a way to include those new climbers, but still have the circuits you want, because I think there's a huge attraction factor to those circuits. I think they're a really neat thing. I go in and climb them. My wife does too. I really appreciate it, and I like that 1 week turnover. But how does that affect the new climbers in the gym?
I think it's a fair point to say if there was a similar product for beginners, that would get them pretty excited. I don't know how beginner you have to be, because again, I'm like, the beginners I'm talking about are ones where you can throw up a lot of jugs on the steep, but it's still really hard, right? Like brand new, no pulling power, no technique or anything like that. So the idea of our circuits is that they're comp simulation circuits.
Yeah.
So it's 4 problems in kind of like a V4 to V6 range, and then 4 problems in, I don't know, probably V6 to like V9 generally is the upper circuit. So if we wanted to do it in a comp style, I think it would still have to be fairly moderate. Like, I don't think there would be much about it that would be on brand if it was all the way for beginners. But to your point about the wall angles that they use, because they are set on the rope walls and then the ropes kind of like wrap around them, it's actually, if you look at it, so some of the, aside from the one main feature like slab wall, which always has a balancy slab problem on it instead of the top ropes that it probably hosted before.
Oh yeah, like the 18-foot high top ropes.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, is most of the comp problems are set in the areas where it would just be an 18-foot top rope, and instead the top rope just starts somewhere else. And for the most part, the comp circuits are set in the steeper areas, believe it or not. So where the comp problem's set, it doesn't change actually that much about how the climbs are, and a lot of them are tucked away in the lead caves. So the lead cave just starts off on a different wall and then wraps up. So I don't think about that too much as a difficulty thing.
Do you get a lot of backlash from those old school hardcore Joe Rockheads route climbers who all of a sudden have these upstart competition climbers taking up their terrain?
Upstart competition climbers, as if there's like a new breed of like comp climbers coming out of Joe. Sorry, I'm like flaming people.
Joe's for 20 years, I think I'd be kind of annoyed if these competition climbing is this new hot thing, and I can just qualify for local comp.
Okay, but like the comps, the circuits have been going up for I don't know how long, but like
4 years now.
Yeah, so for a while, right? So they're not new to anybody. I think.
Yeah, but let's be honest. In the last 3 or 4 years, there may have been.
Yeah, that's fair too. Maybe like a drop off.
But I don't need to say it, but I think you know what I mean.
But I think the trade-off for that is that there would have been a certain number of people climbing those ropes, right? And now that rope area of the gym is full of boulders and lots of people enjoying those boulders. So yeah, there may have been some rope climbers that are like, oh, it's kind of harder to start these climbs because there's so many boulders in the way or whatever.
That's okay. You can keep doing that. I'm fine with you doing that. They'll find a place to climb routes.
Don't worry. There's somewhere to go. No, yeah. So I don't know, because again, I wasn't around for whenever that transition happened, because you're talking about 2 transitions of, first of all, us putting more space for bouldering, and then the second one being other Toronto gyms improving quality, and then other Toronto gyms opening, like you guys, right? So I wasn't around for those parts of it, and maybe you're totally right. But just there yesterday, there were some new ropes up, some new boulders up, and it's still like any gym. It's sharing space, right? Like people are climbing on the comp boulder, and then they pause for 2 minutes as one of the lead climbers starts up a route, and then when they get out of the zone, then you get back on the boulder again. So I'm not saying you're wrong for sure, but it's reached an equilibrium of like, this is what the gym is now.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's cool to see, and as I said, it does set the gym apart from others, and we've talked about this many times. Given our market, you've got to decide what it is you're going to be, and you just you make the best of it. And as I said, we've got a youth program, and you've got boulders on your route walls.
Make it sound more appealing.
No, but I'm never.
I'm gonna rephrase that for the record. We have finely crafted boulder circuits on our walls, and you guys have like snot-nosed shit monsters.
That's right. Yeah, I've been dealing with my own problems from that. No, it's. I never want to see those circuits go anywhere as a boulder. I love it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And it does. I'm sure it attracts a lot of people on those days when they're reset. And I would warn that a lot of the momentum behind the team at Joe's played a part in that happening and it continuing to exist.
For sure.
That's sort of the A and B team when that really took off. Because I think partly Io was setting that as training for the team. Maybe initially, I don't actually know what his decision was, but either way, it's made an incredible legacy, and people know about that circuit, and it's quite unique, the fact that it is only up for a week. And then you therefore have every week an attraction factor for people coming through your doors. Yeah, sure. It's just interesting, obviously, opening a new gym when we did now almost 2.5, almost 3 years ago. We dealt with a lot of old school climbers coming in, and we had to deal with all those concerns of old school climbers, and I could only imagine how difficult that would be in your space, managing the expectations of those folks. But obviously this is the new norm, or has been the new norm for a while, so you don't necessarily deal with that. And you as a business have identified that you're targeting a different market as far as what you're looking for, I guess.
And I mean, let's say you're one of those old school climbers too, and let's say you start losing some ground to bouldering, I think the transition is made easier by the head route setter for the facility is a Team Canada competitor, and he is well loved by the community, and so he starts putting up something new, right? And you look at all the other gyms around and you say, maybe there's not enough ropes here or whatever. You go to the other gyms and they're way busier. Like, one of the strongest selling points of Joe Rockheads often is it's like fairly quiet. You're not off, especially in the daytime. The place is like, it's yours. If you show up, the place is, yours to have. And then in the evening when it's busy, it's still completely manageable. Whereas that can feel really different at another facility, right? Like sometimes I go to your place to hang out with people, and I'm like, I'm back to back with somebody.
Oh, you make it through the doors,
row.
Do you?
Well, not that often. Yeah, I just normally sit at the desk and talk to your desk staff, and then walk away again. Yeah. But it's at the moment that is a draw. So if you are one of those old school people who started climbing indoors when you were the only climbing gym and the community wasn't that big, it still has that feel because there's nobody there.
Is this an advice section where you're telling me I need to start putting boulders on the bottom of my route so I can reduce traffic?
Yeah, man. Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, that is, and conversely, that is our biggest criticism, that we're busy all the time. I mean, I'll take that if that's what you want to criticize me about, totally. It's location, right? And our place is convenient to get to, and it's rammed in the evenings, and that is why I choose to go and climb at other places during really, really busy times. Sure. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't go and climb at other gyms. And I love going and climbing at other spaces and experiencing what they have going on. And I am also somebody that doesn't pay to climb at my climbing gym, so I feel super guilty when I climb during peak hours in there.
Just taking up space.
Yeah, taking up space, right? And I'm not paying for it. So it's one of those things where I pick and choose my climbing times carefully, but I'm lucky. Not everybody can do that. We try really hard to figure that out because it is so busy all the friggin' time. We have an incredible amount of staff supervision that definitely helps with the traffic. Putting in a boulder is theoretically going to be something that helps with our traffic, but who knows, right? I mean, we're not even back at, like, it's not Thanksgiving yet, so we're not going to see our climbers coming back inside yet. So what is going to be the impact of that boulder? I can tell you right now, I'm a little apprehensive about this season coming up because it's already been pretty busy over the last couple months.
Yeah.
We are seeing people transferring memberships or consolidating, I would say. A lot of people have been holding multiple memberships or punch cards at different places, so we have already seen that happen. So the question becomes, is it going to spread out the traffic or is it going to increase traffic in the gym? Will our route climbers become boulders and route climbers, or will we just get a whole new selection of boulders in? And to give credit to boulders in the junction really close to us, they have done an incredible thing for a really long time, so much so that they opened another gym in Etobicoke. So we're, again, a different product from them. So I don't know if we're going to take business away from them, but I also don't know if we'll be able to have a similar kind of success in the sense that this is a boutique bouldering space. And does that mean we're going to create a whole new realm of boulders in our gym? Luckily, they're just going to stay upstairs on the mezzanine, if that's the case.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's anybody's guess. And, people keep asking us, they're like, oh, are you going to put more climbing on those walls on the west side of the gym where the graffiti is? I'm like, do you really want me to do that? Because at the end of the day, that will mean more people in the gym.
Yeah.
For sure. And we are at this kind of crux that we're dealing with is where can we expand within our facility to, instead of necessarily bringing in more people, spread out the load of things. Now, that is an option for sure, but right now, and I'm sure you've heard people talking about this, the thing that is in limbo right now is a training area because we put in a giant boulder upstairs. Yep. So in the next week, that's starting to be built downstairs.
Okay.
Along that west wall. So if route climbing does go in, that would be definitely a little bit longer down the road, because if we put more route climbing in, where's the training go?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's you guys are in a really unique situation again, just because of you guys have like a really small space for the amount of traffic you guys deal with at Basecamp. But you need space to sit down too, right?
Yeah,
and I think
I've lose that.
I've kind of, we've talked about that in the past. It's not something to be like ignored, and climbs are awesome, but it's also nice to, we call it social space or whatever, but just having space that isn't for climbing, that lets you just kind of chill out, lets you wait for your friend, lets you put your shoes on without, being like under 2 or 3 belayers or whatever. Like, there has to be breathing room, otherwise you're just wrecked, and like the level of comfort just disappears, right? And at Joe's, that's kind of a thing. It's nice that at Joe Rockheads, they've got like a built-in lobby section, which you can't really mess with. Like, it's going to be just for seating, basically. But once you get into the gym at busy times, like, it's one of those gyms where the walls are kind of everywhere and there's no real like designated spaces. So you have a lot of crossover, people sitting in weird spots, and it's something to manage and care about just as much as we like allocate space for climbing, making sure you allocate space for taking a sip of water and just getting rid of
so many of these people come in and so many of our members come in and climb 4 or 5 days a week, and it is not just the physical, it's the social activity of it, and we need to foster that in a way that, as you said, isn't an inconvenience to the climbing space. And our space is such a premium. I can't lose that little corner that we have right now to anything else. And right now, the feasibility of building more second floor space it's just not an option in our gym with the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what this boulder does. I'm excited to see if we're going to get route climbers bouldering, or if we got a whole new community of climbers. And we've had a whole bunch of people swinging through who haven't come to the gym before, so it's already having a positive effect. People who climb at other gyms have bought day passes and come in multiple times since, so it's doing what it's supposed to do. It's going to pay for itself really quickly. It's just it's going to be a year before I really truly know what that impact will be, and we're still only in year 2, so nothing's really stabilized as far as looking at statistics and growth and things like that. It's another X factor. As we start looking and quantifying the data, is what is that impact? How much of that is still just standard business growth, and how much of that is boulder specific? Those kind of things are super exciting to look at, and we will do our best to manage that impact as it happens in the gym. So for example, we were getting a lot of feedback last year about how busy our weeknights were, and as a business, I don't have a huge problem with it being busy in the gym. When people start complaining about it, it's obviously something that we do have concerns with, and we do our best to manage those. So I mentioned this already, greater supervision. That's a really, really important thing. The other thing being is we limit our programming in the evening time during our peak hours. We only have one youth program that runs into our peak hours, the high performance program, and we cap that at 10 kids. Like no more than 10 in that program, because we don't want to impact the gym. We have removed our introductory lessons from every night except for, so we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday evenings now.
Okay.
We were doing them every night. So that has a positive impact on the gym. We try and have our lead climbing lessons outside of peak hours. We don't have our rec programs run into our peak hours. So we are doing a lot of things behind the scenes to try and manage that traffic. And we will very likely have to do even more. We may have to cut one more evening out of our lessons and add in more lesson spots on the other evenings if we need to. So more lessons, but less evenings. Who knows? But the beauty of our situation is we have the flexibility to be able to do that, and we have a management and an ownership that is ready and willing to make those changes and to adapt to the comments and criticisms as they come in. And as I said before, being criticized about being busy, I can handle that.
Yeah.
There's definitely ways that we can work around it, and we are actively doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, worst case scenario, I'll just show up with some 50% off Joe Rockhead's passes and be like, "Oh, so you like bouldering, eh?
Perfect.
Let me show you what it's really
you
about."
You guys like hard circuits? Come on down to Joe's.
Yeah, I heard you don't like footholds at all. We wreck you on those. Yeah. Listen, I gotta get ready to go in. So thanks very much for the chat, man.
Super fun. I'm excited to keep chatting about a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, for sure. Have a great Friday with the friends and stuff, and we'll talk in a week or two.
All right, buddy. You take care.
Peace, Max.